I've spent thousands of dollars on cruise upgrades that sounded like good ideas, but turned out to be a total waste of money. And after taking 22 cruises last year, I finally realized something most cruise videos won't tell you. A lot of the things people pay extra for on a cruise aren't necessarily bad, but they're just wildly overpriced for what you actually get. And I know that because I've bought almost all of them. So if you want to avoid paying the cruise stupid tax like I did, let me show you what I'd never pay for again and a few upgrades that are actually worth the money. This video isn't about cruising cheap, and it's not about avoiding upgrades altogether. It's about value because after enough cruises, you start noticing a pattern. Most cruise overspending comes from paying for convenience you didn't need, exclusivity that you really didn't get, or upgrades that sounded great before the cruise and barely mattered once you were on board. So I'm going to break down the things I've stopped paying for completely and a few upgrades I still think are worth every dollar. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Most cruise lines have embarkation dialed in now, so paying extra to get on early rarely changes your day in any meaningful way. But the cruise lines love bundling priority boarding with extras to make it feel valuable, but the reality is most of those perks go unused or don't actually improve the experience. So whether it's Carnival's Faster to the Fun, Norwegian's Priority Access, Royal's The Key, Celebrity's Premium Access Pass, or any of the other clever names they come up with, what you usually end up paying for is the peace of mind that you'll be one of the first to board the ship, but it usually saves you less than 15 minutes. There's one exception to this, and that's Club Orange on Holland America, because it adds in an upgraded dining room on their Pinnacle class ships that may be worth it if you're looking for an elevated dining experience without paying for specialty dining. Royal Caribbean's brand new Royal Beach Club in Nassau isn't bad, but it's wildly overpriced for what you get. When Royal launches something new, it's usually a game changer, but here you're mostly paying for the branding as the beach day itself isn't meaningfully better than other beach clubs across the Caribbean. They cost half as much. The food, drinks, chairs, and water are all fine, but they're just not special. If this were priced closer to the alternatives, it'd be an easy recommendation, but at the current prices, it's not something we'll do again. Maybe I'm wrong. If you've been there, I'd love to know. Did you think it was worth the money? Or am I being overly critical? Let me know in the comments. Cruise line excursions look exciting in the app, but once you're on them, it typically feels more like herding elephants through a city. You're loaded onto buses with huge groups, given a rigid schedule, and from that point on, you're no longer exploring. You're instead part of a shared logistical nightmare with stops that are rushed, zero flexibility, and decisions that are made for the group instead of for the experience. By the time you're back on board, you realize you spent a lot of money to waste your port day being moved around like cattle instead of discovering a place. Now look, they're safe and predictable, but that safety comes at the cost of time, freedom, and value. But if you want the peace of mind of a back-to-ship guarantee without the massive crowds or cruise line pricing, Shore Excursion Groups is a great middle ground and they're our preferred tour company. They have smaller groups, hand-picked tour operators, and every tour comes with their back-to-ship guarantee so you can rest easy knowing you're taken care of. So click the link in the description below and you can see for yourself what makes them so great. Some cruise lines absolutely nail their chef's table experiences with galley tours, tableside entertainment like live music or magicians, and dishes you can't get anywhere else on board. But that's not the case with Royal Caribbean. On Royal, there's no behind-the-scenes access and no tableside magic, and there's really nothing beyond the meal itself. But the biggest issue is that every dish is available in other specialty restaurants across the ship, and several of them honestly aren't even that good. So you're paying a premium price for a longer meal that doesn't actually give you anything new, and for the cost, it just doesn't deliver enough to justify it. A lot of people book spa treatments on port days because the ship is quieter and less crowded, and that part does make sense, but the trade-off is cost. Even if they offer spa services at a discount, you're still paying significantly more for the same treatments you can likely find mere steps away from the ship, and many times off the ship, they're right on the beach with the real sounds of waves crashing instead of being tucked into a dark room with a noise machine. For us, we'd rather get off the ship for an hour or two for a better experience at a fraction of the cost, and then head back if we want to enjoy the ship with less people on board. After sailing in a suite across every major US cruise line in 2025, one thing became clear. On most ships, the extra money doesn't translate into a meaningfully better cruise. Your days still revolve around the same ports, shows, and public spaces as everyone else, and on many of the cruise lines, the suite amenities just aren't worth the extreme premium. And nowhere is that more clear than Disney Cruise Line, where the price jump for concierge is absolutely absurd, with our recent 4 night sailing costing $12,000 for the worst service we've ever experienced on a cruise, suite or not. Now, look, I will say there's definitely some exceptions to this, and I will mention some of those later, but for the most part, I no longer feel any pressure to book a suite on most cruise lines. Thermal suites sound relaxing, but on a lot of cruise ships, they just don't live up to the price. Many are small, poorly maintained, or have features that are out of order, especially on older ships, and some don't even have ocean views, which takes away a big part of the appeal. Now, there are a few standout exceptions on newer ships, particularly on Norwegian, MSC, and Celebrity, but across most cruise lines, thermal suites are one of those upgrades that looks great in photos, but ends up feeling underwhelming once you actually use them. Disney Cruise Line is very good at charging extra for things that sound special. In fact, I probably could have made this entire video just with a list of the things Disney charges extra for. But the worst offenders of them all are the experiences like Olaf's Royal Picnic on the Disney Wish or the Adventure Teas on their other ships that cost a family of four like mine $700. And for that price, you're getting a few cheap disposable toys, light finger foods that without a doubt will not replace a real meal, and entertainment that isn't meaningfully different from what you already see at dinner. It sounds magical on paper, but the reality is the value just isn't there. Drink packages aren't a waste for everyone, but for me, they usually backfire because even when I get a good price, I end up drinking more than I normally would just to justify the cost, and the extra calories just aren't worth it. I know what you guys are thinking. If you can consistently hit 5 or more drinks a day, even on port days, the math can definitely work. But for me, I'd rather just order a drink when I'm actually in the mood and not feel the pressure to get my money's worth. Forgetting everyday items like deodorant, sunscreen, or basic medicines turns into an expensive upgrade you didn't ask for because once you're on board, those everyday items are priced like luxury goods and well, you don't have any other options. They're not a huge expense individually, but they add up quickly and it's painful every time you swipe your card to purchase another essential. So, like they say with Santa Claus, make a list and check it twice before you leave home. Now, look, not all upgrades are a total waste of money. In fact, some of them are worth every dollar. And the first of those are that you should definitely pay the extra money to choose the cabin you want. When you let the cruise line choose your cabin, you're getting in the cabins nobody else wanted, which means you're likely to end up in a noisy location with an obstructed view or other issues that made them less than ideal, which is why nobody else picked them. I've learned that paying a little more to pick your exact cabin is one of the smartest upgrades you can make. Many cruise lines offer a variety of drink tasting experiences with things like mixology classes, wine events, and guided cocktail tastings that are not only a lot of fun and a great way to make new friends, but if you didn't get the drink package, they're also a cost effective way to try a few drinks you probably normally wouldn't order. We don't do these often, but when we do, they're always a good time and they've always been an upgrade we're glad we paid for. Princess Premier is one of the few bundled upgrades in cruising where the math actually works. For $100 a day per person, it wraps your drink package, Wi Fi, specialty dining gratuities, and a few other premium perks into one price that's far cheaper than buying those things separately. And more importantly, it simplifies the whole cruise so you're not tracking charges, upgrading piecemeal, or second guessing decisions. This is the closest mainstream cruising has to an all inclusive experience. And although Princess isn't our favorite cruise line, Princess Premier is the easiest upgrade decision in all of cruising. And Holland America offers a similar package to Princess Premier called Have It All that isn't quite as generous, but it's still worth the upgrade as it includes Wi Fi, drink package, some specialty dining, and shore excursion credits into a reasonable price of around $60 per day per person. The math isn't quite as aggressive as what it is with Princess, but it still makes sense if you're planning to buy most of those things anyways. But more than anything, it simplifies the cruise and keeps costs predictable, which is why it earns a spot on the worth it list. And the biggest upgrade of them all is the jump to the suites. But as I said earlier, most of them just aren't worth it. The retreat on Celebrity is absolutely incredible on Edge class ships, but the reality is the entire ship is amazing. So for me, there's not enough value to consistently spend the extra money, but the Haven and especially the Yacht Club are absolutely worth it. In the Yacht Club, you're going from around $300 a night for a standard balcony to $900 a night for a Yacht Club balcony suite. But for that $600 a day, you're getting a lot more than just a bigger cabin. You're getting a premium drink package, 2 Wi-Fi devices per person, a private restaurant, an incredible private lounge, a private pool deck with its own bar and buffet. You're getting butlers and concierges. You're getting access to the thermal spa and even more than just that. And it's really incredible when you consider all the things that are included. And honestly, that's the point. It's not just to say choose the cheapest options always, because there are some upgrades that actually change the entire experience where the price can make sense no matter what it is. But here's the bad news. Even when people understand which upgrades are truly worth it, a lot of them still end up overpaying. Between constantly shifting fares, fake deals, and bad timing, it's incredibly easy to spend thousands more than you should without even realizing it. But the good news is this is completely avoidable. And in my next video, I break down the exact tricks we use to save money on every cruise. There's no sketchy booking sites and no last minute stress, just simple strategies that actually work. So don't stop here, watch that one next, and I'll show you exactly how we cruise better for less. I'll see you there. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.